But what we learned about corruption. And we hadn't really talked much about corruption at that stage. We were still trying to understand, you know, what gas, what drilling was, what were the concerns, what cumulative impacts were. We were still just kind of learning about the public health and the decision-making process. But that was the beginning of us really questioning corruption. Well, we found that corruption isn't really about money. We started to talk about corruption of the decision-making process. So in other words, if you don't consider public health, that's corruption. So if you have a process, and if the politicians are told that people have concerns about public health and the environment, and then the politician comes out and he says, based on the information that he's got from his officials, and says, well, we're going to use the best decision-making process possible to make decisions here, and we're going to make sure that nobody is going to be, so we're going to make sure that public health is considered. And we had a process like that where they talked about the environmental impact. They were going to use the EIA directive to regulate fracking in Ireland. Oh, it took us a while to understand that the EIA directive was focused on projects, and what we were dealing with at the time was a plan and a programme to frack, to drill 3,000 wells, and that the environmental impact assessment was only really able to consider one well. What they weren't telling us, which is where I think that's what I call corruption, was that in order to look at cumulative impacts, in order to deal with all the concerns that we had, that in order to be able to look at the additional risk associated with thousands of wells rather than one well, that they had to do high-level assessment. So they were avoiding the high-level assessment and going direct to projects in order to be able to use a different directive so that they could avoid looking at cumulative impacts in public health. And for us, the money isn't important. There's lots of ways to be corrupt. Like we're not going around chasing after people to see if they got brown envelopes. What we want to make sure that is that if the public interest is being considered, and if the public interest isn't being considered, that has to be corruption, and that's really more serious than brown envelopes.